You were singing along. Did you hear that? Two weeks from now is Easter. Easter for us churchy type Christian church people is Daytona 500, round 4 of the Masters, game 7, Super Bowl, NCAA final, all wrapped up in one. Okay? That begins to give you an idea of how important Easter is to us. And what I want to do today is challenge you and press you on to good works and say that we have an awesome opportunity here in the next couple of weeks to change somebody's life. I am not overstating it. You have the power to completely transform somebody's life between now and 2 weeks from now. You might not think you do, but you do. Somebody a long time ago probably told you about Jesus. Or if you had a Christian mother and father, somebody told them about Jesus. Or if you had a Christian grandma and grandpa, somebody told them about Jesus. One of these days, I'll share with you the story of my mother's father and how just some random person one day came and changed an entire family's life just by a random invitation to come to a church service. But over the next couple of weeks, I want you, there's this stack of invite cards. We printed these up. They're out at the welcome desk as you come in. You can take a little stack of these and throughout the week, keep them in your pocket, keep them in your purse, stick them to your forehead, some way to remind yourself to talk to people about Jesus. Who do you want to invite? Who could I invite? Folks, let me tell you a little secret. I've only been here in Clarksville for a little while, but I know this. We are surrounded by heathen people. Right? Like Starbucks in Denver. You can't go out and throw a rock without hitting a person who doesn't know Christ, and then go there and chuck that same rock and you'll find somebody else who doesn't know Christ. We are surrounded by people who don't know Christ. And so it's not just we go out and we go, who should I invite? Who shouldn't we invite? Okay? And this morning we're going to look at Mark chapter 4. I want you to turn there, Mark chapter 4. And I want to start out with this challenge. The problem with church people, aren't you glad you came to church today so you can hear the problem with you people? The problem with church people is we hang out with way too many church people. Which is kind of the opposite of the advice that I got when I was younger, which was be very, very careful who you rub shoulders with. Be very, very careful who your friends are. Be very, very careful who you have relationships with because they can bring you down, tear you down. And that's right. But at the same time, Jesus just didn't go into the temple, sit on those stairs that I pointed out last week, and just live there and have his meals delivered. He went out and talked to people and shared with people. He went out and made an intentional decision to rub shoulders with people that most Christian people in 2018 do our best to keep away from. Because we might get some of their heathen cooties on us. We really do need to spend more time with people who aren't like us. And so in Mark chapter 4, I want you to look there this morning. Mark chapter 4, verse 1, Jesus tells this parable. It's the parable of the sower. Many of you are very, very familiar with this, but I want to share this with you this morning, and then I want to give you a challenge before we go, okay? Mark chapter 4. Jesus began to teach by the lake. The crowd that gathered around him was so large that he got into a boat and sat in it out on the lake, and while the people were along the shore, they gathered at the water's edge. He taught them many things by parables, and in his teaching he said, "Listen, a farmer went out to sow seed. As he was scattering the seed, some fell along the path, and the birds came and ate it up. And some fell on the rocky places where it did not have much soil. It sprang up quickly because the soil was shallow, but when the sun came up, the plants were scorched and they were withered away because they had no root. Other seed fell among thorns, which grew up and choked the plants so that they did not bear grain. Still other seed fell on good soil. It came up, grew, and produced a crop, some multiplying 30, some 60, some 100 times. The first kind of seed bore no fruit. The second kind of seed bore no fruit. The third kind of seed bore no fruit. And in Jesus' math, that still doesn't make sense. The fourth kind of seed didn't double. It produced 30, 60, and 100-fold. Which do you want to be? Is this on? Thank you. Okay, verse 13. Verse 13. Then Jesus, see, that was the audience participation, part of the sermon. Okay, you missed it. Then Jesus said to them, don't you understand this parable? How then will you understand any parable? It's as plain on the nose on your face. The farmer sows the word. Now, the word here is a little bit bigger than just what we kind of think of as the word. Today, usually when we think the word, we think the Bible. And so we might read this a little bit pigeonholed and think the farmer sows the word. The farmer, we go out and we sow Bible verses or Bible literature or tracts or gospels, and we sow that. That's good, but that's incomplete, okay? Some people, the farmer sows the word. We can sow the good news about the gospel. We can talk about the kingdom of heaven. We can talk about the living word, Jesus. That is sowing the word. So the farmer sows the word. Some people are like seed along the path where the word is sown. As soon as they hear it, Satan comes and takes away the word that was sown in them. Others, like seeds sown on rocky places, hear the word and at once receive it with joy. But since they have no root, they last only a short time. When trouble or persecution comes because of the word, they quickly fall away. Still others, like seeds sown among thorns, hear the word, but the worries of this life, the deceitfulness of wealth, and the desires for other things come in and choke the word, making it unfruitful. Others, like seeds sown on good soil, hear the word, accept it, and produce a crop. Some 30, some 60, some 100 times what was sown. Jesus uses the word scattered here. And when we think of farming, some of you are farmers or come from farmer stock. Some of you have seen, I don't know, Little House on the Prairie. Okay? So somewhere in between there, you have some basic understanding of farming. There's dirt. You put a seed in the dirt. Stuff happens, and then you have corn on the cob, right? So, in some sense, we are now all farmers. We go out and we sow the seed. Jesus used the word scattered, and he used that word on purpose. Look at this picture. This would have been a decent representation of what they would have heard. The people who heard Jesus teach, they understood scattered. There would be a bag of seed or even a fold of your robe. You would bring it up, have a nice big pouch pocket, and you would have tons and tons of seed. You'd reach down, grab seed, and you'd just fling it. You don't know where the seed's going. You just fling it, and you walk through the field and you fling it wherever you're going. Then you come back later and you turn over the dirt. You plow that ground. Therefore, after the fact, we've turned that seed over. That seed ends up underneath the surface. That's what Jesus was talking about here when he talked about scattering seed. 4 types of soil. I'm going to talk through each one of them real fast, okay? The first type of soil is just the path. The farmer comes, scatters the seed lands on the hard path, never gets down below the surface. You know that kind of a person. No response. You tell him about Jesus, you invite him to church, you talk about how good God's been into your life, and you get nothing. You ever got that? Oh man, my life has been changed by Jesus. Awesome. Tell me more about that. Maybe they've heard it before. Maybe they've just gotten just enough religion to kind of inoculate them. The seed doesn't sink in. It could be that they're willfully resistant. There are people that are willfully resistant to you talking about the Bible, talking about church, to an invitation about Jesus, about any kind of a religious matter, a relationship with God. They're willfully resistant. They don't want to hear. Most people are just kind of ambivalent. They just don't care. Okay? It's not that they hate you and they don't want to talk about Jesus. It's just that they just don't care. Anyway, either way there, the seed comes, the seed lands on top, it never gets through the surface, and the devil just comes in like a bird, scoops it up, eats it up, and takes off. Second kind of soil is the rocky soil. I call these bottle rocket Christians. Okay? Matt Slight now is going, "You are singing the song of my people." Okay? Bottle rocket Christians. They go, and then that's it. That's it. They spring up, they make a big loud noise, bang, it's gone. That's the rocky soil. They shoot off and then they're gone. They're excitable, but they're kind of like bandwagon people. Do the words University of Maryland, Baltimore County mean anything to anybody in here? University of Maryland, Baltimore County. They shocked the world Friday night in the NCAA basketball tournament. Never, ever, ever, ever in the men's tournament has a number 16 team, that means you barely made the tournament, beat the number 1 team, which meant they had 2 losses all year. This number 16 team, University of Maryland, Baltimore County, a school that everybody in America, except for the people who actually go to school there, had to Google what that meant. Okay? That team had just got smoked by like 40 points to who? Albany. Just in the last couple of weeks, they went in and played the number 1 school in all of America, Virginia, and they didn't beat them. They trashed them. It was tied at halftime. You would have thought that the coach, Virginia coach, would have gone in and gone, "Go. Wake up. Boys, up here. Wake up. Let's go play basketball. You're better than them. Go do that." They went out and they just got trucked in the second half. University of Maryland, Baltimore County, this is rocky soil. They're very, very excitable. All of us now are University of Maryland, Baltimore County fans. They are going to get smoked today. 2 weeks from now, nobody's going to know who their mascot is. By the way, it's the Retrievers. Okay? There's no depth. It's very, very excitable. The rocky soil, they go off. They're excitable. They're joiners. Oh, yeah, I've tried this and it didn't work. I've tried this and I'll try that Jesus thing and give it a whirl. But as soon as it gets hard, as soon as it gets tough, as soon as it costs me something, I'm out. That's rocky soil. The soil with thorns. There's nothing actually wrong with the soil. There's nothing wrong with the seed. There's nothing wrong with the plant. The soil is rich and fertile. The seed has produced a good, healthy plant. There's just no fruit. Why? Because something else in the soil is sucking up all the nutrients that you need to produce fruit. They're weeds. So your seed has been good. The soil is good. But something's sucking up something out of your life that should be given to God, that should be His. Weeds. They could be seemingly harmless preoccupation with work or hobbies, friendship, politics, sports. Those nutrients could be stolen by bad habits, unforgiveness. Those things have come and sucked up everything that you need to produce fruit. Maybe that's you this morning. You look fine from the outside, you're just not producing fruit. And then the fourth kind of soil is the good soil. The soil is good, the seed is good, you're down deep in the soil, you've pulled out all the destructive weeds, God feeds you, He shines on you, and you produce fruit 30 times, 60 times, 100 times what was originally sown. Not everybody is going to get it. And as we go out to in reality, scatter seed, we'll make more. As we go out to scatter seed after Easter, as we go out and we talk about Christ, as we witness to what he's done in our lives, as we invite people to come to church, as we go out and do that, not everybody's going to get it. Not everybody's going to give you the time of day. Not everybody's going to come. But some will, because there's good seed. There's good soil. Some will produce fruit 30, 60, 100 times. Let me show you what I mean. Does the name Hal Needham mean anything to anybody? Hal Needham. Everybody knows who Hal Needham is. Of course, yes, of course. Someone guessed it. He was a stuntman in cowboy movies in the 60s and 70s. Everybody knew that, right? He was behind the scene guy, have gun, will travel. If there was some dusty guy who fell off a horse in a movie in 1967, it might very well have been Hal Needham. Household name, right? Laurence Olivier, Hal Needham. He was a stuntman. That's it. He was a stuntman. Except he had a friend. His friend's name was Burt Reynolds. Okay? Hal Needham, stunt guy, knew Burt Reynolds. And all of a sudden, in the late 70s, Hal Needham, the stuntman, gets to direct a Hollywood movie, Smokey and the Bandit. Testify. Needham had never directed a film. He was a stunt guy. Burt Reynolds, who starred in the movie, Burt Reynolds said that when he read the script, it was the worst script he had ever seen. So they tossed it. They threw away the script. They ad-libbed. If you go back and watch the movie, they ad-libbed most of the dialogue in the entire movie. The plot of this movie is ridiculous. The plot of the movie is this. Bandit and Cletus must drive from Texarkana to Atlanta with an illegal shipment of Coors beer. That's the movie. They've only got a certain amount of time, eastbound and down, and they've only got a certain amount of time. Some rich guy in Atlanta wants Coors beer. It's over here. It's illegal to have it east of the Mississippi, so they get a big truckload, and they avoid Smokey all the way, which was Jackie Gleason in one of his most wonderful. The plot, the script, the whole thing was comical, directed by a stuntman. When asked about the movie, co-star Sally Field, and she was an actress with chops. She was a real actress. Burt Reynolds, he was Burt Reynolds. But Sally Field, she esteemed to be a serious actress. And when they asked her about it, she said this, "I thought it was the end of everything I had worked so hard to achieve." It was released in 1977. Smokey and the Bandit cost $4.3 million to make, and $1 million went straight to Burt. So they had $3.3 million to make the entire movie. It grossed $300 million. It made $300 million. Finished second only to a tiny little film released in 1977, Star Wars. It finished second to Star Wars. Of all the movies in 1977, Smokey and the Bandit, idiotic plot, no script, stunt guys directing it, Burt Reynolds, it made $300 million. Now, compare that to a different kind of a movie. Contrast Smokey and the Bandit with this. This one has a far better shot. I don't even know how to pronounce this guy's name. Jon Favreau, what's his name? Anybody know? He was an Iron Man, okay? This guy directed Elf. Everybody loves Elf. Buddy the Elf. Okay, this guy directed Elf. He directed all of the Iron Man movies. He is a Hollywood big shot. He directed this movie. The producer of this movie was Ron Howard, or Little Richie Cunningham, or Opie. Opie grew up and had a big boy career. He is a for real Hollywood heavyweight. He produced this movie. The stars of this movie, Indiana Jones starred in this movie. Harrison Ford starred in this movie. And if Indiana Jones wasn't enough, James Bond was the co-star. Daniel Craig. This movie, which is directed by the guy who did Iron Man, produced by the guy who did Apollo 13, and stars Harrison Ford and Daniel Craig, flopped. It was awful. Cowboys and Aliens. Gacked. It was awful. Smokey and the Bandit made $300 million. Cowboys and Aliens profited $11 million. $11 million. Profit for the entire thing. Smokey and the Bandit, $300 million. Cowboys and Aliens, with all the special effects and Han Solo starring, made $11 million. It finished in 2011 when it was released. It didn't finish first or second. It finished 30th. 30th. Here's some of the movies that beat Cowboys and Aliens. Ready? Bridesmaids. Puss in Boots. The Smurfs. The Smurfs beat James Bond and Han Solo. Hop, which I think was an animated thing about Easter bunnies. Kung Fu Panda 2. And Green Lantern. Yeah, I know. Oh. Green Lantern. Here's my point, folks. Here's my point. You don't know. You don't know. You don't know. You don't know when somebody gives you an opportunity. You don't know what that represents. You don't know that one movie's going to be a flop and one movie's going to be a success. You don't know if Han Solo's in it, it's going to make $1 gajillion, and if Burt Reynolds is in it, it's going to be a flop. You don't know. You don't know. That's why we scatter seed, like we're made of it. Because we don't know. Somebody, somewhere, told you about Jesus. Or they told your mom and dad, or they told your grandma and grandpa, or they told somebody who told you. Somebody, if you take that family tree back enough, there was somebody that was lost, and they became found because somebody else sowed seed. When they looked at you, when they looked at your forebearer, when they looked at your family member, they didn't see good soil. They saw soil. And they very recklessly went out and scattered seed. And so my challenge to you with 2 weeks between now and Easter is go out and scatter seed. Specifically, talk about Jesus way before you talk about church, way before you invite people to come to Easter, okay? But invite them to come. This isn't a 25-minute commercial for invite cards, but this invite card kind of represents what I'm talking about today. Go out and scatter seed. You don't know the soil that you're about to come upon. One of the bad things about us is we think we know. We think we know maybe a nice way to grow a church is to go out and find other good church people. No, that's not what Jesus did. Jesus went out and found 12 yokels, and then they went around getting bad reputations for 3 years. That's how you build a church. Nobody ever tell you that? That's how you build a church. We go out there and we scatter. We go out there and we spread seed. Just because you have a John Deere tractor, a bag of seeds, some property, and some time on your hands doesn't make you a farmer. It's true. You're not a farmer until you sow seed. And many of us here today, we think we want people to know Jesus. We say we want people to know Jesus. We know that there are people out there who really could benefit from having a church home, even one as imperfect as ours. And we want to include them in, but yet we never extend that invitation. Folks, we are set up here in the next couple of weeks. The Holy Spirit, I don't know. Every day is God's day. That's what Pastor Charlotte tells us. Today is your day. Pastor Charlotte tells us every day is God's day. There's something unique and special about Sundays when we come together and we celebrate the resurrection. But there's something super stoked about Easter. The Holy Spirit is just dripping off of that day before we even get there, and we get to be a part of going out and telling somebody about the good news that we've found. When we leave here in just a minute, would you go out and sow seed, scatter seed, recklessly? Leave the soil up to Him. Leave the growing of the plant up to Him. But the sowing of the seeds is on us. That's our job. And we either do it or we don't. I want to do it. Today, as we close, we're going to receive the Lord's Supper. And let me tell you something about that. Here's what's cool about coming to the table. There's always more room at the table. There's a Jewish tradition, one of their meals that they share together, on purpose, they leave an extra place at the table. They set it. It's just the chair's out. The plate is there. They leave that, hoping that it will be filled. As we come to the table today, as we share the bread and the cup, as we come to the table, there's more room. There's room for more to come. In just a moment, I'm going to have you stand and step out of your sections to your right and come forward and receive a piece of bread and dip it into the cup and receive the bread.